Here on Comic Class, we have a show called Building the Team, where we pitch to you our dream roster for a superhero team, but today we're going to do something different with it. In just a few weeks, Avengers Endgame is here, and it truly is the end of an era. Over 10 years worth of movies have all led up to this point, and while we don't know how it's going to end, there's one thing that we know for sure. The Avengers are going to look very different after this film. I still meet a lot of people who wonder, are all the characters who got snapped away by Thanos in Infinity War going to come back? Yes, of course they are. I can guarantee you with 100% certainty that every single person who got snapped away by Thanos is going to come back to life at the end of Endgame just fine. Don't worry about them when you should be worrying about them. Yeah, all the people who did get snapped away, they're the ones who you need to be worrying about. They're the ones who we don't know whether or not they're actually going to survive through this film, and we know for a fact that many of the actors like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. have already confirmed this is their final Marvel movie. Which means if we continue getting Avengers movies after this point, then the roster is going to be completely different. So today on Building the Team, we're going to pitch our dream roster for the Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers, starting in Phase 4. Now, before we go into this, there's a few ground rules to cover. First ground rule is that, as I said, everyone who got snapped away is totally up for grabs because, as I said, we all know that they're coming back. However, as I also said, anyone who is left alive at the end of Infinity War is totally up in the air. We have no idea which of these characters are going to survive, so if I'm including any of the characters who made it through Infinity War and are going into Endgame, I had better have a really good justification for it. I need to be 100% certain that they're going to survive before I put them on this team. Next ground rule is I'm sticking with about 6 or 7 members on this team because that's how big the original Avengers cast was, so it feels like that's a proven formula for a new team coming together and meeting each other for the first time. It feels like we know how to do that, it feels like it works, so I'm sticking with that size roster. And our other ground rule is I'm going to try and focus on characters who already exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I have no idea what plans Marvel might have for the characters they have yet to introduce. That's not saying I won't have 1 or 2 brand new characters on this list, but does mean that if I'm going to put a character who has yet to exist in the movies on this list, I need a really good justification for it. But alright, enough of that, let's go ahead and start with the 2 most obvious choices. Black Panther. This one is a slam dunk. His movie brought in a ton of money, propelling him to a level of stardom like few characters have ever known. Plus, we're going to be losing Captain America, the lead strategist on the team, and Iron Man, the tech guy and financial backer of the Avengers. Someone is going to have to lead this new team and provide them with financial support. Why not the guy who is known for both his brain and bank account? He's the king of the smartest, richest nation on Earth. He more than fits that role. Plus, at the end of his film, he realized that he needed to have Wakanda take more of an active role in the world, so funding the world's greatest superhero team certainly would fit. Heck, he's even the current leader of the team in the comics, so it almost feels like the books are even trying to get us ready for this. Second most obvious choice, Captain Marvel. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Thor and Hulk aren't coming back, so we need a new star heavy hitter, and Captain Marvel is being pitched as the mightiest Marvel hero, so she would work just fine. Plus, just like Black Panther, her movie brought in a ton of money, just recently passing $1 billion, and we've already seen a whole audience of younger fans out there signing up for the Carol Corps, so Marvel definitely wants to keep her around. Also, the point of her movie was to show how she planted the seeds in Fury's mind to start the Avengers in the first place, so it would only be fitting for her to actually finally join the team. Next up, speaking of powerhouses, remember in Infinity War when Scarlet Witch showed up, beat the snot out Proxima Midnight, and everyone was all like, oh right, you're a major badass. Then later on, she had to destroy Vision's Infinity Gem, one of the oldest, most powerful relics in the entire universe, with one hand, while holding off a 5-gem powered Thanos with the other. Yeah, you think we're going to let her sit on the sidelines after that? Plus, they finally got rid of that accent of hers, meaning the one big problem with her performance is finally gone. So yeah, there's no reason to not keep her around. And in the comics, she was a mutant and the child of Magneto. And even though all of that has been retconned out because of the movies, guess what? Disney now owns the X-Men again. So we don't have to pretend like that's not a thing anymore. So if we keep her around for future Avengers films, we can use her to help introduce audiences to the idea of mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. My next pick is Falcon, and the reason why is because we all know that Steve Rogers is going to be gone after the next film. Maybe he'll die, maybe he'll just retire, maybe he'll travel the cosmos guarding the Infinity Stones forever. Who knows? Point is, it's clear that he's not coming back for more. And we all know that Falcon and Winter Soldier are getting their own series on the Disney Plus streaming service, and considering both of them have carried the Captain America mantle before in the comics, it feels like their miniseries is going to be a who gets to wield the shield kind of storyline. And if you guys have watched this channel for a while, then you know that out of these two versions of Cap, Sam was easily my favorite, and I love the Falcon as a character, but I assure you, it's not just my personal bias speaking here. Let's stop and think about where these two characters are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. Winter Soldier was brainwashed by Hydra up until maybe a week ago, and then he got snapped out of existence. Yeah, his head might finally be clear, he might finally be free of that mind control, but he's still not exactly in the best place right now to don the Captain America mantle. Sam Wilson, on the other hand, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has already been an Avenger, spent years after coming home from active duty helping soldiers as part of the VA, and was even part of a military program to create a brand of superpowered soldiers. Yeah, between these two, at their current standing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Sam is totally the guy to take over the role. Also, real talk, a superhero team needs people that can fly, and I'm looking at the rest of this roster, and Captain Marvel is really all I've got. Unless you count that weird pushing herself off the ground with her energy blast thing that the Scarlet Witch does, and I do not. So, unless Bucky grows some wings, I'm sticking with Sam. Now, we've got 2 more spots left on this roster, but before we get to them, let's talk about some of the characters who aren't here. First off is Doctor Strange. Yes, he is a major heavy hitter, and he has been an Avenger in the comics, but I like the idea of him handling the mysterious stuff that the regular heroes don't even know about. I like the idea of him keeping over in his own weird side pocket of the Marvel Universe, but if he decides to pop up every now and again in the Avengers film to give them some advice or a vague warning, I'd totally be fine with that. Same goes for Spider-Man. I know he really wanted to join the team in his first film, but the whole point of that movie was to say, we don't need any more big save-the-world heroes. We have enough of those. We need the local friendly neighborhood heroes. And at the end of that film, Spidey learned that yes, that is an important role. It might not be the big flashy role, but it's something that people out there need. They need the small guy, they need the local guy, so he realized that's what he needed to be. Then again, in his sequel, it looks like he's now going to be a super spy flying around the entire planet on weird missions for Nick Fury, so who even knows what Marvel has planned for that character anymore, but point is, I'm going to be keeping him off the team because I do feel like that was an important lesson for him to learn, and it would be kind of weird for him to immediately go back on that lesson. But that doesn't mean that I won't have a spot for an insectoid-like hero, as my next spot goes to Ant-Man. Now again, I don't want to put too many of the surviving heroes on here because ironically the surviving heroes are the ones who might not make it out of the next film alive, but Scott Lang is a family man. A family man with a little girl back home that those 2 films tried really hard to make audiences fall in love with, and he's Paul Rudd, for crying out loud, one of the most likable actors in Hollywood. I can see Marvel killing off several major characters to break our hearts, but killing off Paul Rudd? And Paul Rudd with an adorable daughter, I can't see them being that evil. But I put him on the team because his powers are unique. He'd be able to use them and go on missions in ways that no other character would. He'd be the comedic relief that this team so desperately needs. He's got a connection with Falcon from the previous films that would give the 2 of them a great back and forth between each other. And with Black Panther Super Science on the team, I'd love to see Scott and T'Challa and Shuri talking about the Pym particles. Also, considering how much Hank Pym hated the Avengers, I would love to see what his reaction would be when his protege ends up joining them. Now, as for the final member of this team, I've actually got 2 candidates lined up. One is the primary choice, but a backup plan just in case they don't work out for reasons that will become obvious in just a second. Now, I'd love to use this opportunity to introduce a brand new character that hasn't been in any of these films yet, and my vote goes for She-Hulk. Every single time that I see someone online make a list of Marvel characters not yet in the movies that need to appear, she's always way up there. And for good reason. She's a dynamic personality with strong ties to characters who already exist in the films, so it only makes sense for her to finally appear. But why would I want to introduce her in the Avengers? Simple! Because it's kind of the only option that we have. You see, something that people tend to forget is that Disney still doesn't own the movie rights to the Hulk. Universal owns those rights. However, Universal and Disney have worked out a deal where Disney can use the Hulk and his supporting characters as long as they aren't appearing in a Hulk film. They can use whatever character they want as long as it's in the Avengers, as long as it's in Thor, but if they want to make their own solo Hulk movie, that's a big no-no. Which means that if you want to introduce She-Hulk, she kind of has to appear in the Avengers. That's really the only shot that she has. And just like Steve and Tony, I've got a sneaking suspicion that Bruce isn't coming back after Endgame either, so that would make this the perfect opportunity to introduce a brand new Hulk. Let's say you have Black Panther needing to hire a lawyer so that he can handle all the legal issues that come with running a superhero team in America, and Jen Walters volunteers because she feels like it would be a good way to honor her cousin and what he did on this team. But then something happens to her, and she needs a blood transfusion. And the only available blood that they have is an old sample of Bruce's blood that the Avengers were keeping around to study, and they have to save her life with it, turning her into the newest member of this team. I think that would work out pretty well, but there's still a really good chance that Universal could say, yeah, that deal we had with Disney only went for the Hulk and a few supporting characters, not She-Hulk, so no deal. So if that's the case, then my vote for the final member of this roster goes to Valkyrie. Again, she's a pretty heavy hitter, and she's also going to be more than likely the final Asgardian if Thor ends up dying in the next film, and I could see her finding a home on Earth in this team as a way to carry on their memory, or in other words, as a way to avenge those fallen Asgardians. And also Tessa Thompson in this role was exploding with personality. She made that character a star, and I really want to see her return in more films. In fact, if you can't get her on the Avengers, I don't know, she knows her way around space. Have her join the Guardians of the Galaxy, just so that she can have a drinking contest with Rocket. I don't care what you do with her, just make sure that she keeps appearing in more movies. But that's it. Those are my picks for the Avengers from Phase 4 and beyond. Let me know your choices down below, and if you like this video, then share it around the web. It really is the best way to help this channel grow. And if you want more from us, then check out our brand new gaming channel over at Thorgy's Arcade. We'll have a link popping up for that right over there. And you can always follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.